Level 1. The Lone Job. You told nobody. That was the whole plan, and it's the reason you're the only one on this entire ladder they never caught. No crew, no lookout, no getaway driver sitting on his nerves at the curb. Just you and a secret you were never going to say out loud. It felt like a weakness, having no one. It was the smartest thing you ever did. Because on a Wednesday night in 1971, you walked onto a plane, handed a stewardess a note, and asked for $200,000 in 4 parachutes. Then, somewhere over the black pine forests of Washington State, you opened the back stairs of a jet at 10,000 feet, and you stepped out into the rain. They never found you. 45 years later, the FBI quietly closed the case. The longest unsolved plane hijacking in the history of the United States. No name, no body, no arrest. Few rotting $20 bills washed up on a riverbank once, 9 years on, and that was all the world ever got back. And you were careful. When they brought the parachutes, you asked for 4, not 1, so they would think you might grab a hostage and make them jump too, and no one dared hand you a chute that had been cut to fail. You thought of everything. Being careful was never the thing that saved you. There are careful men in prison cells all over the world tonight. Here is the thing you need to understand before you climb one more step. The reason they never caught you had nothing to do with how clever you were. It was that there was nobody else in the room. No partner to lose his nerve. No friend to brag to. No one, anywhere on earth, who could point a finger and say, it was him. That's the rule that runs this whole ladder. Every level from here, the score gets bigger. To get that bigger score, you needed something you didn't need tonight. You needed help, and help is the thing that gets you caught. Level 2, the stick-up crew. You couldn't carry the next one alone, so you found 10 men you trusted. That was the mistake. You just didn't know it yet. It was Boston, 1950. 6 years you and your crew had planned it, copied the keys, memorized the guards, learned the alarm. And on one January night, you walked into a Brinks Armored Depot and walked out with nearly $3 million. In today's money, north of $30 million. It was called the perfect crime, and for a while, it was. Here's what made it perfect. Back then, there was a clock on it. A law that said if they couldn't prove the case within 6 years, you all walked free forever. And you nearly ran that clock all the way down. You were days from the finish line. Days from getting away with the biggest robbery in American history. But 11 men had kept a secret for 6 years. 10 of them held, 1 didn't. One of your crew got arrested on something else, sat in a cell, and stewed on the fact that he'd been cheated out of his cut. So the gang sent a man to kill him, a hitman with the nickname Trigger, and Trigger missed. Shot him, but missed. And a wounded, furious, betrayed member of your own crew did the one thing a vault can never do. He talked. 8 of you went down, arrested days before the clock ran out. The vault didn't beat you. The steel did everything it was supposed to. It was the man standing next to you who ended it. And here's the small, ugly detail that says everything about this level. Nearly $3 million, and almost none of it was ever spent. The police found the first thread of the whole case when a bill turned up that was, in a detective's words, musty and matted and wet. The money had been buried and hidden and left to rot, because 11 men who don't trust each other can't agree on when it's safe to touch it. You beat the vault, and then the money you died for turned to mold in a wall. Remember that, because it's about to happen again, and again, and again. Level 3, the vault burglary. By now, you were a professional. You didn't do banks. You did the place the rich keep the things they can't put in banks. Easter weekend, London, 2015. While the city was away for the holiday, you and your crew drilled through half a meter of solid concrete to reach an underground vault in the Diamond District. You emptied it of gold, cash, and jewels, as much as 14 million pounds worth. And you were not young men. The crew were career criminals in their 60s and 70s. One of you was 76. Press called you the Diamond Wheezers, because you took breaks to rest your backs, and one of you was diabetic. On the first night, a door jammed and locked you out, so you went home, and you came back the next night to finish the job. Pensioners, beating a vault the professionals built. You beat the steel. Again. So how did they get you? You talked, not to the police, to each other. The police found one of your cars on a traffic camera, and then they did something you never thought about. They put a microphone in it. Sat, and they listened, while you and your oldest friends drove around bragging about the greatest job of your lives. The vault gave them nothing. You gave them everything. They got 7 years each. The old ringleader, the 76-year-old, had pulled a famous gold robbery decades before and still couldn't stay away from one last score. He got 6. Only a fraction of the 14 million was ever found. And there was a 7th man, the one who actually knew how to beat the alarms, who they called Basil, and who stayed a ghost for 4 more years until they finally put a name to him and gave him 10. 7 men, and not one of them was caught by the vault. They were caught by a bug the size of a coin, listening to old friends who couldn't stop talking. Are you seeing it yet? Every level up, a bigger prize. Every level up, another mouth they could open. You were not being caught by locks. You were being caught by people. And by now, one of those people was always you. Level 4. The armored job. This was the top of the mountain, the biggest cash robbery your country had ever seen. And to pull it off, you needed the most dangerous thing yet. A lot of people, and a monster's willingness to use them. Kent, England, 2006. 53 million pounds in banknotes sitting in a cash depot. Couldn't break in, so you did something worse. Put on police uniforms, and you pulled over the man who ran the depot on his way home. And then you drove to his house, and you took his wife. You took his little boy, and you told him that if he ever wanted to see them again, he would open the doors and walk you in. He did. Of course he did. Caged 14 more staff in the depot at gunpoint while you filled the van. 53 million pounds. You even left 150 million more behind because you physically could not carry it. And it fell apart almost at once. Because a crew that big leaves a trail that wide. There was your DNA. There were your phone records, all lighting up in the same place on the same night. There was a woman you'd hired to build your disguises who turned and testified against you. And there was a man inside the depot the whole time, one of the staff, who'd secretly filmed the layout for you on a camera hidden in his belt. Every single one of those was a person, not a lock. A person. Most of the crew got life, told they'd serve at least 15 years. The inside man got 20. And one of the ringleaders ran all the way to Morocco and got 25 years there instead. To this day, around 30 million pounds of it has never been found. Some of it, the police think, is buried somewhere, quietly rotting, exactly like Boston, 56 years before. Same story, the same ending, told again in a bigger currency. And if you think that was bad luck, look across the ocean at Los Angeles 9 years earlier. Kind of job, an inside man, a fired security inspector who knew exactly when the cameras looked away. He and 5 friends were in and out in about half an hour, in a rented moving truck, without firing a shot. Nearly $19 million, the biggest cash robbery in American history, and almost no evidence at all. They had nothing on you. For 2 whole years, nothing. Until one of your crew paid a man for something with a stack of cash, still wrapped in the paper band from the bank. That's how thin the thread was. You beat the cameras, the guards, the vault, the timing. 2 years of a perfect getaway. And you were undone by a rubber band around a stack of bills, and the mastermind went away for 24 years. This was the peak. The most people, the biggest crews, the widest trails. From the ground floor to right here, the pattern only ran one way. The more you stole, the more men you needed, the more surely you were caught. And then, on the next step up, something impossible happened. Scores got bigger, and the arrests stopped. Level 5. The Ark Heist. Here's where the money stopped being money. Boston, 1990. 1 in the morning, the night after St. Patrick's Day. 2 men in police uniforms knocked on the side door of a museum and said they were answering a call. The guard let them in. That was all it took. You handcuffed the guards in the basement, and for 81 minutes, you had the run of the place, and you cut a Rembrandt and a Vermeer clean out of their frames. $500 million of art, the single biggest property theft in the history of the world. And you took your time, 81 unhurried minutes, walking the halls, choosing. And it has never, not once in 35 years, been solved. The museum still hangs the empty frames on the wall, exactly where the paintings were, waiting for them to come home. The reward started at $5 million. When that brought nothing, they doubled it to 10. 35 years, $10 million on the table, and not one person on earth has ever said the words that would collect it. So what changed? Why did the small jobs and the crew jobs all fall, and this one, the biggest of them all, just vanish? 2 men were in that room. 2. And they disappeared, and the art disappeared, and there was no crew of 11 to crack, no bragging in a bugged car, no fired inspector nursing a grudge. When the money becomes a painting, you don't need a gang to spend it. You need one buyer, in the dark, who also never says a word. Fewer people, colder trail, that was the turn. Now, it isn't magic. Get greedy with the crew, and the old rule comes straight back for you. In Antwerp, 3 years later, a crew beat a diamond vault that was supposed to be the safest room in the world, 10 separate layers of security, $100 million in stones, and they emptied 123 of its boxes without tripping a single alarm. Flawless. The perfect job. And the police caught the ringleader because, on the drive home, they got sloppy with their rubbish and dumped it in the woods by a motorway. In that pile of trash was a half-eaten sandwich, and on the sandwich was his DNA. The vault held, the sandwich didn't. That's the whole lesson in one bite. The steel never talks. People always do, even when the person is a sandwich in a ditch with your name written in spit. But you were learning now. You were climbing toward the only place on this ladder where there are no witnesses at all, and you were about to find out there are 2 ways to get there. First one is to become the law. Level 6, the state. At every level so far, there was someone above you, someone to run from. Police force, a court, a government that wanted you caught. What if there wasn't? Baghdad, the 18th of March, 2003. The night before the bombs, a man walked into the Central Bank of Iraq carrying a handwritten note from his father, and his father was Saddam Hussein. The note said to hand over the money, all of it. And over about 5 hours, they loaded nearly $1 billion in cash, mostly $100 bills, onto 3 trucks and drove it out of the capital. Nearly $1 billion. The largest sum ever physically carried out of a bank in one go. Who was going to report it? The police worked for him. Courts worked for him. The bank was his. When the robber owns the country, there is no crime. There's just a man moving his own money. The witness problem doesn't shrink at this level. It disappears. And here's the part that will stay with you. Everyone calls this the biggest bank robbery in history. Look it up, and the record books say no. People who keep the world records refuse to count it, and the reason is perfect. They say it can't be a robbery, because it was carried out by a ruler with no law above him. It wasn't stealing, it was just taking. The biggest heist that ever happened wasn't a crime at all, because the man who did it wrote the rules. The record they gave the title to instead was another Baghdad bank a few years later that lost $282 million, third of your haul. But that one was a real robbery, so that one counts. American soldiers later found about $650 million of your money stuffed inside the walls of the palaces. The rest simply went into the dark, like everything does at the top of this ladder. Son who carried it out was dead within 4 months, killed in a firefight. But no detective ever built a case, because there was no case to build. Who do you charge? State charged itself with nothing. You were almost there, 1 rung left, and on the last one, you wouldn't even need to be in the room. Level 7, the code heist. No mask, no gun, no note passed to a stewardess, no vault, no guard, no getaway car, just a keyboard on the other side of the planet and a bank that had no idea you were already inside it. 2016, you had stolen the secret codes that banks use to move money between each other, and you used them to reach into a central bank's account at the Federal Reserve in New York, and you started asking it, politely, in its own language, to send its money to you. You timed it for a run of national holidays across 3 countries, so that by the time anyone was back at their desk, you'd have days of a head start. You tried to move $951 million. Think about that. From a man alone with 200 grand, all the way up to almost $1 billion, moved by nobody, from nowhere, with nothing but a stolen password. And 81 million of it got out. It landed in a single bank branch in Manila, got turned into casino chips at 2 of the biggest casinos in the city, and washed out the other side as clean winnings that belonged to no one. Most of it was never seen again. So what stopped the other 850 million? Not a guard, not a witness. Nobody flipped, because there was nobody to flip. There was no crew, no room, no man standing next to you who could ever talk. At the very top of this ladder, the old rule finally ran out of people to break it. So something else broke it instead. A typo. One of the transfer orders had a word spelled wrong. Somebody had typed the word foundation as fandation. And a clerk at another bank, half a world away, saw that one misspelled word and thought, that's strange. And he stopped the payment. And that single stop payment froze the other $850 million before it could move. Look at what just happened to the rule. All the way up this ladder, the thing that caught you was a person, a partner, a brag, a bank strap, a sandwich. Climbed so high that you finally left all the people behind. And the moment you did, the thing hunting you changed shape, stopped being a witness who talks. It became a machine that notices. And almost nobody was ever punished for it. An entire country was blamed. Prosecutors named a single hacker who worked for that country, and he has never once had to answer for it, because you cannot send police to arrest a soldier of another nation. The only human being who went to court over 81 stolen million was a branch manager at that little bank in Manila. Everyone in the room that mattered was never in a room at all. $66 million is still gone. Nobody is coming for it, and nobody is coming for them. So look at the whole ladder now, from the bottom to the top. A man jumped out of a plane, alone with $200,000, and was never seen again. 11 men split $3 million, and a single grudge put every one of them in prison. Pensioners beat a vault and then bragged about it into a hidden microphone. Crew took $53 million and got caught by a rubber band. And at the very top, a government moved $1 billion, and it wasn't even a crime, and a line of code moved almost $1 billion more, and the only thing that stopped it was a spelling mistake. Every vault in the middle got beaten. Every single one. The drills worked. The disguises worked. The timing worked. The arrest never ever came from the steal. It came from a person. It always came from a person. Which means the only heists nobody ever solves are the two with nobody who can talk. The man who works completely alone, and the machine that works instead of men. Everyone in between, every crew, every partner, every friend you ever trusted with the plan was just another mouth waiting to open. You can beat any vault on Earth. You cannot beat a witness. So the perfect heist, the one they never solve, was never the one with the best plan, or the biggest score, or the cleverest way through the door. It was the one with no one left to tell. If you liked climbing this ladder, there's another one. Same idea, followed all the way up a different crime. Watch how a single dirty dollar becomes clean money, one level at a time, from a laundromat all the way to the biggest banks on Earth. That video is on screen right now.